सत्यशोधक रिसोर्स सेंटर सादर करीत आहे आजची जाती व्यवस्था आणि वर्गलढा. वक्त्या आहेत डॉक्टर गेल ऑम्वेट. डॉक्टर गेल ऑम्वेट या ज्योतिबा फुले, डॉक्टर आंबेडकर आणि बौद्ध धर्म यांच्या अभ्यासक आहेत. त्यांनी जाती व्यवस्थेवर अनेक पुस्तके लिहिली आहेत. डाव्या चळवळीत त्या अनेक वर्षांपासून काम करीत आहेत. चला तर ऐकूया आजची जाती व्यवस्था आणि वर्गलढा.
Anihilation in relation to caste annihilation. Many theoretical developments have taken place in the world in all these years in relation to the interpretation of the caste system, its relation to capitalism and difference between caste and class. Though there are so many contributions in these spheres which have taken place, not much has contributed to the concept and aim of annihilation of caste since Baba Sahib gave his lecture and continued his mission up to 1956. We're going to talk about caste and class in the Indian social formation today on this background. Any social structure concretely exists with all its aspects getting intertwined with each other and making it a whole reality. This totality could be first captured in the form of social formation. Social formation includes in itself political structures and relations, legal and judicial relations and structures, relations of production and civil society, cultural configurations and relations, religious combinations and relations between religions, social relations and values, and in the case of the Indian social formation, caste relations and all their aspects. Of course, gender relations pervade all these aspects of the social formation. Any social formation has its own direction of development without which it cannot exist and sustain itself. It requires a driving force for this to happen. The driving force of any social formation is always the dominant mode of production, in the sense of the ensemble of relations between humans and nature and between genders among humans. This ensemble of relations of production is part of this ensemble of totality of the relations mentioned above. This dominant mode gives direction to the continued reproduction of the social formation and development of it. It absorbs under its domination the other modes and relations of production which might reproduce themselves continually but in a transformed form. The ensemble of relations of the essence of the ensemble of relations of production which are different from the dominant mode are always subordinated in the form suitable to the dominant mode. The Indian social formation is dominated by the capitalist mode of production because it is the one which went on increasing its domination since the pre-independence period and has subsumed other relations to strengthen itself. This is a mode which determines in which way the actually existing forms of dominated or subordinated relations would exist, though keeping their essential laws of motion constant. These are mainly the caste mode of production and caste relations and gender mode of production and gender relations. Both of these subordinated modes and relations of production are enveloped by the clothing of the capitalist relations of production. The surplus and structures of the domination are channeled to the existing modes of capitalist domination. Because of this, it appears as if caste relations are gradually getting abolished, gender relations are getting more and more getting less exploitative, and so on. But if you go to the essence of these, it will be revealed that this is not true. It is always the case that while analyzing caste exploitative relations and class exploitative relations, gender relations, which are part and parcel of both these relations, are ignored. So the main contradiction comes in the form of abolishing of class and annihilation of caste. It is high time that now at least we should take the intuitions of Mahatma Jyotiba Phule and Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar about gender relations, strengthening caste and class relations as a starting point for our further analysis to understand the Indian social formation and go towards caste annihilation as part of the abolition of class and gender exploitation. Class and caste. Though classes were existing in India prior to the full-fledged emergence of the caste system during the early Buddhist period, after the demise of the Indus Valley civilization up to the 6th century BCE, like Gahapatis, Shrenis, Kutumbing farmers, and so forth, the existence of classes was a marginal reality after the emergence of the caste system. So classes, in a sense of binary exploitative relations between humans, were never a new thing in the Indian subcontinent. The reality of class and caste exploitation are not natural phenomena for human society. Both exploitative institutions are basically are historically evolved because of the specific situation of development of various societies in the world. Concepts of liberty, fraternity, and equality extend forward to the French Revolution and are considered generally as a characteristic of modern democracy after the emergence of capitalism. But these are also historically evolved in this epoch. Here, liberty, equality, and fraternity doesn't mean there's no inequality in the social structure. It only means in political society they carry definite concrete meanings and are experienced by all people, but in civil society they vanish. The reality of civil society is that of inequality in all spheres, social, economic, cultural, etc. Even in European society, a full-fledged class societies developed in a different form after the emergence of the capitalist system. Equality never exists in civil society. There also is hierarchical gradation in the class structure, even within the classes like working class, permanent workers, supervisors, contract workers, agricultural laborers, which are gradations among working people. This creates a division of laborers. What is different in caste relations is that this gradation among the laboring people has watertight compartments, and these compartments are situated one above the other. Not only that, laboring people from one top compartment participate in the pumping up the surplus created by the compartments below, which is taken to the topmost level. This kind of division of laborers is qualitatively different from the division of laborers within the laboring classes. In this light, we have to revisit Dr. Ambedkar's proposition, Annihilation of Caste, that caste is not just a division of labor, but a division of laborers. Ambedkar, this is a long quote from Ambedkar. It is a pity that caste, even today, has its defenses are many. It is defended on the grounds that the caste system is but another name for the division of labor, and that if division of labor is a necessary feature of every civilized society, then it is argued that there is nothing wrong with a caste system. Now, the first thing is to be urged against this view that caste system is not merely a division of labor, it is also a division of laborers. Civilized society undoubtedly needs a division of labor, but in no civilized society is division of labor accompanied by this unnatural division of laborers into watertight compartments. The caste system is not merely a division of laborers, which is quite different from division of labor. It is a hierarchy in which the division of laborers are graded one above the other. In no other country is a division of labor accompanied by this gradation of laborers. There is also a third point of criticism against this view of the caste system. This division of labor is not spontaneous. It is not based on natural aptitude. Social and individual efficiency requires us to develop the capacity of an individual to the point of competency to choose and make his own career. This principle is violated in the caste system, insofar as it attempts to appoint tasks to individuals in advance, selected not on the basis of trained original capacities, but on that of social status of the parents. Looked at from another point of view, the stratification of occupations, which is the result of the caste system, is positively pernicious. Industry is never static. It undergoes rapid and abrupt changes. With such changes, an individual must be free to change his occupation. Without freedom to adjust himself to changing circumstances, it would be impossible for him to gain his livelihood. Now, the caste system will not allow Hindus to take occupations where they are wanted if they do not belong to them by heredity. If a Hindu is seen to starve rather than take to new occupations not assigned to his caste, the reason is to be found in the caste system. By not permitting readjustment of occupations, caste becomes a direct cause of much of the unemployment we see in the country. As a form of division of labor, the caste system suffers from another serious defect. The division of labor brought about by the caste system is not a division based on choice. Individual sentiment and individual preferences have no place in it. It is based on the dogma of predestination. Considerations of social efficiency would compel us to recognize that the greatest evil in the industrial system is not so much poverty and the suffering that involves, as the fact that so many people have callings or occupations which make no appeal to those who are engaged in them. Such callings constantly provoke one to aversion, ill will, and the desire to evade. So much for Ambedkar. So many years have passed since this statement was made, and now we can say that caste occupations are not enforced under the exploited caste because of the revolt of the exploited castes themselves. And all people's existence and livelihood may mainly don't depend on caste occupation traditionally enforced on them. Are we going to say that because these strictures are not generally operative or have gotten very loose, castes themselves are getting away into the domination of the development of the capitalist mode of production? At the same time, it could be said that people are getting out of the caste structures, and thousands of them have gotten into other occupations which are modern classes in capitalism, and also entered what may be called as intellectual jobs. Are we going to say that caste structures, religious and ideological nature, have gotten abolished? Of course, we cannot say that in a straightforward way. We have to say, rather, that the form of caste system is changing. The relation of the caste system with the old Brahmanic ideology and religious strictures is changing. The majority of people from the erstwhile exploited castes remain not only in the same caste group, but the same grade level their caste was before. It simply means that the laws of motion of the caste system are still operating, but its form is changing and its relation to the ideology and religion is changing. Dr. Ambedkar said about in his ideology, that is my quote from Ambedkar. Let me now turn to the socialists. Can the socialists ignore the problems arising out of social order? The socialists of India, following their fellows in Europe, are seeking to apply the economic interpretation to the facts of India. They propound that man is an economic creature, that his aspirations and activities are bound by economic facts, that property is the only source of power. They therefore preach that political and social reforms are but gigantic illusions, that economic reform by equalization of property must have precedence over every other kind of reform. One may take issue with every one of these promises, which rests the socialist case for economic reform as having priority over economic reform. One may contend that the economic motive is not the only motive by which man is actuated, that economic power is the only kind of power no student of human society can accept, that the social status of an individual by itself often becomes a source of power and authority, is made clear by the sway in which Mahatmas have held over the common man. Why do millionaires in India obey penniless sadhus and fakirs? Why do millions of paupers in India sell their trifling trinkets, constitute their only wealth, and go to Benares and Mecca? That religion is a source of power is illustrated with the history of India, where the priest holds a sway over the common man often greater than that of the magistrate, where everything, even such things as strikes and elections, so easily takes a religious turn and so easily beginning a religious. Yes, it is true that the criticism of Baba Saheb Ambedkar of the socialists. Yes, it is true that the criticism of Baba Saheb Ambedkar of the socialists he encountered is even true today. But the role of religion and ideology is still crucial, not in India only, but also in the countries where the caste system is not there. Nowhere in the world ever was an economic determination of human relations true. Only the nature of relations between ideology, religion, culture, and economic relations was different. The ideology and the strength of the caste culture, values, and religion had different relations where there was no caste system and where there was a caste system. But in both situations, economic determinism was and is wrong. That is why the decision of Dr. Ambedkar to lead people towards Buddhism as a way of life, as Narayana, was very necessary. There are many aspects one could talk about and elaborate in this respect. In fact, Baba Saheb Ambedkar's intuition in saying that the first superstructure must first be broken and demolished before breaking the infrastructure or base is correct. There's an urgent task today to develop a theory and practice for developing a new renaissance in the field of culture, values, arts, literature, and religion. Of course, the developing new renaissance in the field of culture, of course, the mechanical division of society between base and superstructure itself should be rejected, which is another bulwark in front of today's generation for developing a theory of class exploitation. Intertwining of caste, class, and gender. Well, not an annihilation of class, Dr. Baba Ambedkar has extensively dealt with gender exploitation and women's liberation, theory and practice throughout his life. We should look towards this historically, holistically, and understand the necessity and urgency to understand this intertwining of caste, class, and gender. Take any exploited class and you'll find gradation within it based on class and gender. Take any caste and you'll find gradation in it based on class and gender. Take any gender and you will find gradation in it based on class and caste. This itself shows the necessity of abolition of all three exploitative systems simultaneously. This is not an easy thing to do. It is theoretically difficult to develop and practically more difficult to accomplish. But there's no shortcut. We are standing under the shoulders of Dr. Ambedkar and Mahatma Jyotirao Phule in this country, and it is our responsibility.